I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but I think what's going on here is actually grounds to deem that this activist group might have just become the next Sweet Baby Inc., and I'm not kidding. Some context for those unaware, my previous video on this, I spoke about an activist group called Collective Shout. They're a woman led organization that works to censor and remove anything they disagree with, pretty much no matter the medium, the institution, or even the company. It doesn't matter to them. It can be anything that they find that goes against their dogma that they deem to be unfit to exist. Whereas Sweet Baby Inc., of course, ruined primarily video games with their nonsense, Collective Shout is a much farther reaching group that has existed for well over twice as long as Sweet Baby Inc. As seen here on their website, you can even donate to them. Please don't do that, by the way. But as you can see, they list some of their wins, which vary from billboards they disagree with, clothing lines, and of course, video games they claim are misogynistic and more. They've had over 34 wins according to them, which, if you ask me, that is 34 too many. And the reason why we even know this collective shout exists is because, as seen here, they notoriously went after payment processors when it came to specifically Valve's PC platform with Steam. They won their push, by the way, resulting in 418 games as of this video being made getting removed from Steam that were adult themed in their eyes. Though the way the Collective Shout's activists tried to word it, they made it seem like these hundreds of sexual themed video games were actually targeted at children, but they weren't. These games, which were made by developers from all over the world, were specifically age rated for adults only. So what this meant was that Collective Shout was silencing and policing what consenting adults were allowed to consume with their own money on their own time. Yeah, you can see how slippery this can get, but the fact that Steam gave into these demands is what has caused such a massive uproar. Because now that Steam bent the knee, it proves that these types have massive power and will continue to abuse it. And to prove my point, this collective shout has, as seen here from automaton.com, which is titled, Steam Rules Updated to Prohibit Content That Violates Rules Set Forth by Payment Processors and Banks. So, if you don't know, originally Steam had only 14 rules as to what could or could not be published on their platform. But after Collective Shout did what they did recently to Steam, they've now updated it to have 15 rules. This new rule, as it reads here, what you shouldn't publish on Steam, 15. Content that may violate the rules and standards set forth by Steam's payment processors and related card networks and banks or internet network providers, in particular certain kinds of adult-only content. So before anyone tries to claim that Collective Shout did nothing at all to harm Steam, actually they forced them to just, will a whole new legal clause into their agreement that will now affect all video games on their platforms, even the major publishers. So any game on Steam that can now be attributed to being even vaguely sexual or taboo in any such way can now technically be legally removed from the platform against the developers or even the publisher's consent. And it's all thanks to this activist group, and yes, that's a big change. We basically have never seen Steam do anything of the like when other companies have asked them to do anything in the past. They usually just do nothing and win anyways. So to see Steam panic like they did here is really out of character for them, and as seen here in an update, the Steam database will now no longer allow games to exist that have tags like sex simulator, incest, or slavery, which were some of the keywords this activist group specifically targeted. Probably because they knew that they were easy targets and now they will move to bigger fish, if you will. But while I'm not necessarily defending the kind of games that are here, as they're not really things I would play myself. Again, these are adult-themed games, not really meant for kids. But the fact that they were able to do this against Steam no less means quite literally that no one really is safe now. That same article also references how payment processors getting targeted can affect and shut down entire websites like it did with Manga Library Z, which if you don't know is now gone, as it says here. It is possible that Steam's new rule is a means to prevent such complications from arising. However, as the specific rules and standards of the payment processors are also unclear, publishers might need to be extra cautious with releasing their games on the platform. Exactly that. Now in a very short period of time, games will have to jump through even further hoops, or this collective shout could threaten their livelihoods if they don't fall in line. Yes, everyone, this is 100% censorship forced on Steam, and it 100% worked. Also, if you enjoyed the content, consider liking the video, and leaving a comment to help the channel out. I thank you very much, but this isn't even the end of the shenanigans because there's a lot more to go over here. As I said, censorship is the key reason why this is concerning, but surely it ends there, right? They couldn't censor anyone else. Well, and lo and behold, they have actually already done just that. And this is a weird story, but let me walk you through it. So, there is this journalist, I use that word lightly, named Anna Valens. They're a trans activist who notoriously went after a VTuber named Kersha and attempted to get this VTuber sponsors all to drop her because, in this Vice reporter's eyes, Kersha was a right-wing Yahtzee that had to be silenced for voicing opinions that were, I guess, conservative. It all blew up in Anna Valens' face, and since then, most of the articles and hit pieces that they wrote on Kersha have been removed by Vice due to immense backlash. Mostly because Anna Valens was clearly lying and just trying to force a boycott against someone they hated for having opposing views. Anyway, flash forward to right now, and Anna Valens attempted to try another hit piece, but this time against Collective Shout, the same group that is threatening to censor every video game or piece of media that they deem shouldn't exist, and yes, they are winning this right now. So anyways, why would Anna Valens try doing this, you may ask? Well, their founder, Melinda Tankard Rice of Collective Shout, as I exposed in my previous video, is actually a conservative woman who wants to censor anything sex-related pretty much on the internet and then some. As seen here on Melinda's Wikipedia page, she's Australian-born, founded Collective Shout, many years ago, and is cited as being a part of conservative ideology. Fair enough, so this would of course make Collective Shout another potential target for someone like Anna Valens, who's obviously very liberal. Which is exactly what ended up happening, except the article they wrote about Collective Shout, it already doesn't exist. But here's a screen cap from it. The article was titled, "Collective Shout Seems to be Misinterpreting the Games They Target." As Anna Valens wrote in the now deleted article, yesterday Vice requested specific details from Collective Shout on Steam games that, per the organization, depict child you-know-what. As of yet, the group has not clarified which games portray this subject matter and how. As this reporter covered yesterday, it seems incredibly unlikely that any adult Steam games depict underage characters in sexual scenarios. Then, following this article by Anna Valens of Vice, mysteriously, not only was this article removed without them even being told, but the request to remove it was actually from Collective Shout themselves, and immediately it was able to reach the top of Vice's leadership, scaring them so badly that they just removed the article immediately upon request. As Anna Valens then said via Twitter, Vice's owner, Savage Ventures, has requested the removal of my Collective Shout articles. This is due to the concerns about the controversial subject matter, not journalistic complaints. Effective immediately, I will no longer contribute to Waypoint. If this upsets you, I recommend contacting Savage Ventures directly with your complaints. Yeah, so Vice got spooked so badly by this Collective Shout people, they just took everything down. How does that even happen? This is the same Vice that is reported on every war possible, every controversy that has ever happened and then some. Yet here they crossed the line because of this Collective Shout. As friend of the channel Savvy said in the comments section, this was the line for Vice, not lies, CDs, not using the platform for hate and manipulation, but actual pushback and questions about a pro-censorship group from Australia. So, this has caused many in the comments to wonder, why is Collective Shout so powerful in this manner? Because I struggle to think of another group that has the balls of other publications in a Vice grip, no pun intended, like this. Not even speaking about Sweet Baby Inc. would even cause this level of censorship in the past, and yet here we are witnessing forced censorship on entire websites for even daring to speak on the operations of this pro-feminist Australian group. I've had people comment in my previous video about this, asking how do you even combat something like Collective Shout? The answer is right now, I don't really have an answer yet. Because it's not like this group that censored Steam overnight by the hundreds has any way of you really boycotting them. Firstly, they're a non-profit advocacy group. It's not like they make video games or actual products themselves. They are literally the internet Karens that are sitting beside the venue where the punk rockers are playing with their arms crossed, calling everybody bigots for being there. But the fact that they're powerful and influential enough to not only make Steam bend the knee, but now Vice? That has me worried and confused. These people are like a ghost version of Sweet Baby Inc., but like a ghost, it's borderline impossible to hurt them either. Because I've never seen an advocacy group go after the payment processors of others at all. I never even really thought that could be a tactic. Because how can payment processors be politically aligned with their systems when they're used to buy basically everything ever in the world? You can't cancel a payment because someone buys like pro-conservative merchandise from someone else is selling it, or like if someone's a Christian, you can't stop them from buying a house. The same way you can't for liberal things either. It's politically neutral because that's what money is. It's up to you to decide how you spend it. Yet here, Collective Shout stepped in, told the literal payment companies, hey, you need to stop supporting Steam or else. And then they did that and it worked, and that is scary, guys. I've never really seen this before. I'm kind of at a loss as to what can be done here. Because as this other user said that Grums then retweeted, which they said, now that they have won this battle, their next step is to go after games like Stellar Blade. They won't stop until they have full control onto everything we do, and that may sound like hyperbole. And it would be, however, but if you look into the past of Collective Shout, they actually do have the power to wish things for like this to happen, and no, I'm not kidding. For an example, if we go look at their website, which showcases all of their wins and their initiatives, in 2014, Collective Shout actually caused retailers in Australia like Kmart and Target to remove Grand Theft Auto 5 from their store shelves like forever. Like that's it. Like, are you kidding me? They actually had enough power, 11 years ago, mind you, to cause huge chains to delist the most profitable and widely sold video game ever made so far in Australia. Are we being serious? Sure, you may say this doesn't affect America itself, but the fact that they were able to now influence the entirety of Australia then, to effectively ban GTA 5 of all games, that's no small feat. An indie game, that might be different, but this is GTA 5, guys. What's also crazy is I actually went in and looked at what they did, as you're seeing on screen here. They celebrated how they forced an entire continent and its people to remove GTA 5 from sale because of sexual violence and misogyny, according to Collective Shout. But what's crazier is if you go to the actual petition, which is now on screen as well, the people in charge of these retail stores state that removing GTA 5 from storefronts actually falls in line with what they deem to be the views of their customers. Like, what are they even saying? I guarantee you that the majority of Australia does not actually believe that GTA 5 being pulled from store shelves is a majority take. It's a small vocal minority that wants to control everything, and this Melinda Tankard Rice lady who runs this is who wants these games gone, not the people who like and play GTA and more. But again, that was 11 years ago now, and yes, I understand that this was only limited to Australia where Collective Shout operates out of. However, now as we have seen all of us, now 11 years later, they have successfully caused the biggest PC platform in the world, which is American-based, to bend the knee as well. So to say their power is growing is an understatement. If they can will their politics into existence over the notoriously politically neutral Steam, what else can they do? And where does it end? Because games like Stellar Blade are also ripe for the censoring and canceling. I mean, they've tried it in the past, at least journalists have. And yeah, you can put Eve in that game in all sorts of outfits. Some are far more revealing than the rest. Sure, you could argue, but Stellar Blade is made for mature audiences. And you're right about that. But if Collective Shout got rid of 418 games that were also mature rated, what difference does that make to them? And what's next? Dead or Alive is banned then? Maybe the Resident Evil games could be censored or removed since women can be killed in those too by zombies or mutants. I mean, where does the censorship end? Because if these people get their way, you can't enjoy anything unless it gets filtered through their way of looking at the world, and that's all. And that is, as we know, a dangerous precedent. It complicates things more too since they're also conservative-led. Again, making the claim that all conservatives are bad mentality gaining traction due to groups like this. Collective Shout, in my opinion, they're like the conservative version of the far-left Sweet Baby Inc. They're like two insane groups that are occupying different sides of the same coin. And both of these are so extreme that nobody is really safe with these sorts of groups existing on either side of the political spectrum. But when they have big wins like the Steam one, like this shows, it just means that these things could and will likely get worse. That they're so bullish that on their main page, as seen here, they are always gearing up to take on more and more companies just because they can. So it feels less like they're doing what they do to protect people and more so just to watch the world burn and get more people to submit to them. And the fact that they're specifically targeting video games is concerning, because how do you combat something when even the news websites are not able to report on it without also being censored? The fact that you need to use the Wayback Machine to find Vice's articles on Collective Shout when it just came out is crazy. The only likely reason this happened could be that Vice and Collective Shout are also in bed with one another, and they don't want hit pieces written about something that they're obviously attached to in the background, slandering it on their own website. It's really the only reason that I can think of that makes sense. We know that these media types are usually all in bed with one another to some capacity, but this is egregious if you ask me. Savvy also did a video on Collective Shout recently, and one of the things she did unearth was articles where this Melinda Tankard Rice was questioned by others, and her enemies described how this Collective Shout leader responds to criticism. As seen here in her video, Melinda is described as being someone who argues through emotion while dodging the subject, which is a tried and true way that many activists, especially feminists, use to get their way when they're arguing their rights. Because it's not really about being right, it's more so just about being the loudest, which has clearly worked for Collective Shout over the years, as we all know now. So this saga goes back years too, since here's an article that Savvy also referenced in her video from the website crikey.com. It's from January 2012. Yeah, I know, 13 years ago, and even back then, this Melinda Tankard Rice would push to silence her critics with censorship, and as this article explains, Melinda would even use threats of suing people for speaking out against her beliefs or her operations. As seen here in this now 13-year-old article, Melinda is against abortions and even tried to use her connections to paint this other journalist to seem like she was cyberbullying her by challenging her beliefs. However, from what I could gather online, this Collective Shout leader would drop her defamation lawsuit against this journalist because, of course, there were no grounds to proceed with the lawsuit. But the fact this sort of person has now set their sights on video games, and really God knows what else, is set to force a deluge of nonsense to happen in the future unless it is challenged. Because how is it okay to allow a group that doesn't even buy or consume your products to have such power over you? The same group ran by this Melinda woman who pushes books made by her own employees about how sexual harassment is prevalent everywhere. Every man is evil and we need stricter censorship laws in place. You realize these groups could target YouTube eventually too, right? Because they could do that, and what could YouTube even do? Same goes for Twitter and beyond. All of your free speech is at risk if groups like this continue their crusades and keep winning. And again, I've seen comments in my previous video on this as to how do we combat this, and after thinking it through some more, the first course of action is this, which is our own form of activism against it. Not to silence or force censorship on this group, but to make as many people aware of how they use their tactics to get what they want. If more people became aware of what Collective Shout is doing, the more public knowledge and defense we can form against them, so that when they do inevitably target another game or studio or wherever else, their usual strike fast and demand change mentality can instead be challenged and forced to not be activated as quickly as they are, used to, I guess. And if more companies, like, let's say they target Sony or Nintendo in the future, that those companies can feel liberated knowing that the general gaming public is against the demands of this group specifically, which could hopefully vindicate Sony or Nintendo or whoever is next to also understand that just because this group with a history of censorship is targeting these entities for no other reason than to enact control and power over spaces they don't even occupy themselves. It is ridiculous to believe that this Collective Shout is a group of gamers. They probably couldn't even name you like the top 5 best performing games of the last year off the top of their heads. And they probably don't even know what the term Souls-like even means. These people are activists who just enjoy ruining things because they can. Video games to them are not an art form, but a stepping stone. It's just an example to be made out of before they move on to the next thing that they want to inevitably censor as well. So I do think this sets a terrible precedent, and if Steam got spooked that easily, and now places like Vice are folding immediately upon being sending out articles against them, this proves that this group has real tangible power. So I hope this video informed you, and while I am placing a target on my back here by doing this probably, it does need to be said. Yeah, we have enough problems to deal with from the fallout of Sweet Baby and all of that, and all the layoffs, and the whole stop killing games thing that's still going on. But now you're telling me that we gotta deal with what? Stop censoring games now? It just never ends, man. But I thank you for watching. Subscribe to keep up to date. Have a great day. Enjoy some gaming, and I'll see you guys next time.